Welcome to our deep dive on Mother Teresa.
Yeah,
You're clearly interested in going beyond the usual saint narrative,
right.
and that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
We've got this fascinating biography here that digs into some lesser-known aspects of her life and work.
Yeah, this biography goes beyond the simple portrayal of unwavering faith
Right.
and dives into a much more intricate story
Okay.
of a woman shaped by historical forces,
Yeah.
personal struggles, and yes, some controversies too.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with her early life.
Okay.
I have to admit, I was surprised to learn that her given name
Right.
was Agnes Bangsa Bojaxiu,
Yeah.
born in Skopje,
Mm-hmm.
a city under Ottoman rule at the time.
Right.
What's the significance of that for understanding her upbringing?
It's a crucial detail.
Okay.
Skopje, you see, was a real melting pot of cultures and religions.
Mm,
Not your typical European Catholic setting.
right.
Her family, devout Catholics,
Yeah.
amidst a Muslim-majority population,
Right.
faced a unique set of challenges and influences that shaped their worldview.
Her father, Nicola, was a successful businessman,
Yes.
but also involved in Albanian politics.
Mm-hmm.
And his sudden death when Mother Teresa was just 8
Yeah.
must have been a huge blow to the family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It not only threw them into financial hardship,
All right.
but also forced her mother, Drana, to become the sole provider.
Wow.
She started selling handcrafted goods,
Okay.
demonstrating incredible resilience and resourcefulness.
Yeah.
This spirit of determination clearly had an impact on young Agnes.
Drana also instilled a deep sense of faith and compassion in her children,
Yes.
regularly welcoming the poor and needy into their home,
All right.
sharing whatever they could.
It's essential to recognize this background to understand the foundation of Mother Teresa's later work.
Mm.
Her mother's actions, combined with their strong faith,
Yeah.
laid the groundwork for her commitment to serving others.
Right.
We also can't forget the influence of their parish priest,
Okay.
Father Jambrekovich, who shared stories about Jesuit missions in Bengal.
So it's like all these early experiences,
Yeah.
the historical context,
Mm.
family dynamics,
Yeah.
the exposure to missionary tales,
Yeah,
were all subtly guiding her path.
precise.
Okay.
They all played a part
Yeah.
in shaping her worldview
Right.
and her eventual decision to join the Loreto Sisters,
Okay.
an Irish order known for educating girls.
Wow.
Imagine, at just 18,
Yeah.
she leaves her family and homeland
Right.
to dedicate her life to service in a faraway land.
That's quite a leap of faith.
It is.
And she arrives in India in 1929,
Yeah.
a time of intense social and political change.
Right.
India was under British rule.
Mm-hmm.
The independence movement was gaining momentum,
Yes.
and tensions between Hindus and Muslims were escalating.
Absolutely.
Stepping into that environment must have been a real eye-opener.
It must have.
Her early years in India were spent teaching at
Yeah.
St. Mary's School in Calcutta,
Right.
a Loreto institution,
Yeah.
committed to educating girls from all backgrounds.
Yes.
While this provided a certain level of comfort,
Right.
she couldn't escape the stark poverty and suffering just outside the convent walls.
Right outside those walls, yeah.
So this experience at St. Mary's, often overlooked, might have planted the seeds for her later call within a call,
Yeah.
when you say?
It's highly likely.
Okay.
The contrast between the relative security of the convent
Yeah,
and the desperate needs of those outside
right.
must have been a constant reminder of the inequalities and suffering in Calcutta.
Mm.
This period likely laid the groundwork
Yeah.
for her decision to break away from traditional missionary work
Okay.
and dedicate herself to serving the poorest of the poor.
And that brings us to the pivotal moment in 1946,
Okay.
on a train journey to Darjeeling,
Right.
where she experiences what she described as an inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
this profound feeling that she was being called to serve the poorest of the poor in the slums,
Yeah.
not just teach them, but live amongst them. Right.
Share their hardships and offer comfort.
Right.
It was a radical shift from the established practices of the Loreto Sisters.
Indeed, it was a very different path.
It's important to remember that this wasn't just a passing thought.
No, it was...
This call within a call
Right.
propelled her forward,
Yes.
despite the immense challenges she would face.
She would face many challenges.
She encountered significant resistance,
Right.
not only from her superiors within the Loreto order,
Yeah.
but also from the Archbishop of Calcutta himself, Ferdinand Perrier.
That's right.
He wasn't exactly thrilled about a lone nun venturing into the slums.
No, he saw it as potentially dangerous.
Oh, wow.
Even scandalous.
Yeah.
Remember, this is a time of social upheaval and religious tensions.
Right.
It took years of persistent requests,
Really?
and appeals to Rome for her to gain the necessary permissions.
Wow.
The fact that she eventually received the decree of exclaustration
Okay.
highlights how extraordinary her request was.
This rare decree allowed her to maintain her vows while living outside the convent walls.
That's incredible.
It is.
It really speaks to her unwavering commitment to her vision.
Yes, it does.
But she didn't just jump into the slums unprepared.
No, she didn't.
She actually spent several months in Patna,
Right.
receiving intensive medical training from the medical mission sisters.
That's an important detail.
That's a detail you don't often hear.
Yeah,
But it shows a practical side to her approach, doesn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
This training was a deliberate choice
Okay.
and proved invaluable in her later work.
Right.
It wasn't just about spiritual zeal for Mother Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
She understood the importance of practical skills in serving those in need.
Right.
This approach, combining both faith and action, was key to her success.
So in December 1948, armed with her training and fueled by her vision,
Yes.
she returns to Calcutta ready to begin her mission.
It was a big moment.
But it was far from a glamorous start, wasn't it?
It wasn't. No. Her first step was establishing a small school in the Moti Hill slum,
Okay.
facing rejection,
Really?
and even being mistaken for a beggar at times.
Wow.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
that being so immersed in the poverty she was trying to alleviate,
Right.
that she was practically invisible to those around her?
It really highlights the level of humility she embodied.
It does.
But she persevered,
She did.
finding a more permanent space.
Yeah.
Thanks to the kindness of the Gomes family.
Right.
Former students who offered her a room in their house on Creek Lane.
It was a turning point.
This move to 14 Creek Lane was a turning point.
Yes.
It marked the beginning of the Missionaries of Charity,
Right.
the organization that would become her lasting legacy.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing to think that this globally recognized organization
Yeah.
had such humble beginnings.
Within months, a small group of young women,
Wow.
inspired by Mother Teresa's example, joined her,
Mm-hmm.
dedicating their lives to serving the poorest of the poor.
And their commitment quickly gained recognition.
It did.
In 1950, the Missionaries of Charity received official approval from the Archbishop of Calcutta
Yes.
and even got the Vatican's blessing for their distinctive blue-bordered white saris,
That's right.
a symbol of their unique calling.
It was a unique calling.
From a single nun's vision to a rapidly growing order.
Yeah.
It's quite a story.
Quite a story. Now let's explore some of the institutions Mother Teresa founded.
Okay.
Each one reveals a different facet of her mission and the complexities she faced.
You mentioned Normal Friday,
Yes.
the home for the dying, earlier.
Right.
Just the name itself evokes such powerful emotions.
It does.
What was her vision behind creating this space?
Imagine Calcutta in 1952,
Okay.
overwhelmed with poverty and disease.
Right.
Hospitals were overflowing, and many were dying on the streets alone and without dignity.
It's a sad picture.
Mother Teresa witnessed this immense suffering
Yeah.
and decided to create a space where the dying could receive basic care and comfort in their final moments.
She chose a location near the Kalika Temple,
Yes.
a place of worship for the goddess Kali, right?
That's right.
It seems like an interesting choice considering Kali is associated with death and destruction.
It was a deliberate decision that speaks to Mother Teresa's unique worldview.
Right.
She saw it as a fitting location,
Okay.
believing that dying near this sacred site would offer spiritual solace
Mm-hmm.
and a smoother transition to the afterlife.
But as you might imagine, it wasn't without controversy.
Oh, it sparked quite a bit of
I
controversy.
could see how that might raise some eyebrows.
Local residents,
Yeah.
particularly the Brahmin priests,
Right.
were outraged.
Wow.
They saw the presence of the dying as a defilement of the sacred grounds.
Oh.
There were protests, accusations of proselytizing, even death threats.
Really?
Mother Teresa faced significant opposition, and yet she remained steadfast in her mission.
It's incredible how she persevered despite these challenges.
Her determination was remarkable. She met resistance with her characteristic determination and unwavering faith.
Okay.
She believed that everyone, regardless of their background or beliefs, deserved a dignified death.
Right.
And eventually some of the initial opposition faded as people witnessed the genuine compassion of her work at Normal Friday.
But even with the good intentions, there were criticisms about the quality of care provided there, right?
There were.
Especially compared to Western medical standards?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Critics argued that the facilities lacked proper pain management and hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Teresa's emphasis on spiritual comfort over advanced medical interventions
Right.
was often at odds with Western perspectives on healthcare.
I see.
It's important to understand that her approach was deeply rooted in her faith,
Okay.
where suffering was seen as a way to connect with Christ's sacrifice.
But it must have been a difficult concept for those who prioritize alleviating suffering at all costs.
Absolutely. It highlights the cultural and philosophical differences
Yeah.
in how we understand suffering.
Yeah.
For Mother Teresa, faith and acceptance of suffering were central to her worldview, while critics focused on the need to alleviate physical pain and improve material conditions.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
It is a very complex issue.
And this focus on faith is also apparent in Shishu Bhavan,
Yes.
the home she founded for abandoned children.
Yes. At Shishu Bhavan, Mother Teresa and her sisters worked tirelessly to rescue infants abandoned on the streets,
Wow.
often victims of poverty and societal pressures.
Right.
This was a time when female infanticide was still a tragic reality in India.
It's heartbreaking to think about the desperation that would lead parents to abandon their own children.
It is a heartbreaking reality.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa saw these children as innocent victims deserving of love and care. She and her sisters provided shelter, nourishment, and medical attention,
Right.
and whenever possible, arranged for adoptions.
This brings up another area where she faced criticism, her stance on abortion and contraception.
Mother Teresa's unwavering opposition to both was deeply rooted in Catholic doctrine,
Yeah.
while her stance on protecting life resonated with many.
Yeah.
It also sparked debate, particularly among those who advocated for women's reproductive rights and access to family planning
Right.
as essential tools for empowering women and addressing poverty.
Her views, though, rooted in her faith, often clashed with perspectives that emphasized individual choice and control over one's body.
Exactly. It's a reminder of the tension that often arises when deeply held religious beliefs intersect with complex social issues.
And this tension is also evident in her approach to family planning.
Yes.
The biography mentioned her strong advocacy for the rhythm method,
Right.
which wasn't exactly effective for many families struggling to make ends meet.
There was a story about a woman who, following Mother Teresa's advice,
Okay.
hung her rhythm beads on a statue of Kali, hoping for divine intervention,
Oh, wow.
but still ended up pregnant again.
Oh.
It illustrates the challenges of applying a strict religious doctrine to the realities of poverty and cultural practices.
It seems like good intentions don't always translate seamlessly into practical solutions.
That's often the case, unfortunately.
Mother Teresa also established Shantinagar,
Yes.
a leper colony, right?
Yes. Shantinagar wasn't just about treating leprosy,
Right.
a disease feared and misunderstood for centuries.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa aimed to combat the terrible social stigma associated with the disease.
Right.
In India, leprosy often led to ostracization and immense suffering
Yeah.
beyond the physical symptoms.
She wanted to create a space where these individuals could receive care and live with dignity.
Exactly.
And it was around this time that her work started gaining global recognition, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Malcolm Muggeridge, a British journalist, initially skeptical of Mother Teresa,
Okay.
was so moved by her work that he produced a documentary
Really?
titled Something Beautiful for God.
Hmm.
The film, with its powerful imagery and emotional narrative, captured the attention of a global audience
Wow.
and catapulted Mother Teresa to international fame.
I remember the intriguing story about the divine light during filming.
Oh, yes.
The cameraman used a new type of Kodak film in the dimly lit Normal Friday.
Right.
And when the footage was developed, it was remarkably clear and well lit.
Some attributed it to divine intervention,
Right.
adding to Mother Teresa's growing mystique,
Yeah.
while others saw it as a fortunate coincidence with the film technology.
Right.
Regardless of the explanation, it undeniably added to the documentary's impact.
The success of Muggeridge's documentary, along with his subsequent book, truly transformed Mother Teresa into a global icon.
And did.
Her message of selfless service resonated with people across cultures and religions.
Yes, it did.
The Missionaries of Charity, along with the Missionaries of Charity Brothers founded by Brother Andrew,
Right.
witnessed a surge in interest and support from all corners of the world.
It was truly remarkable.
Her story seemed to touch something deep within people,
It did.
inspiring them to act and to contribute.
And yet, as her fame grew,
Yeah.
so did the scrutiny and criticism.
And those criticisms, often overlooked in the popular narrative,
Yeah.
are crucial to understanding the full complexity of her legacy.
They challenge us
Yeah.
to think critically about the nature of faith, charity, and the ethics of helping others.
We were just discussing how Mother Teresa's fame brought increased scrutiny of her work.
Right.
Some of those criticisms seem particularly difficult to reconcile with the image of the saintly figure.
Yeah, as her global platform expanded,
Yeah.
so did the volume of critiques.
Yeah.
And some were quite pointed.
Okay.
For instance, Germaine Greer,
Yeah.
a well-known feminist writer, raised concerns about Mother Teresa's work with rape victims in Bangladesh.
Those are very specific accusations, weren't they?
They were.
Okay.
Greer argued that Mother Teresa's unwavering focus on preventing abortion
Right.
may have unintentionally pressured vulnerable women, many of whom were already facing immense trauma and societal pressure,
Yeah.
to relinquish children they might have otherwise chosen to keep.
It's certainly a deeply sensitive issue,
It is.
made even more complex by the cultural context of Bangladesh at the time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this controversy highlights a recurring theme in Mother Teresa's story,
Okay.
the potential clash between her unwavering commitment to her beliefs
Right.
and the autonomy of those she sought to help.
There were also criticisms about her acceptance of donations from figures with questionable reputations, weren't there?
There were.
Yes.
Some questioned her willingness to receive funding from dictators like Duvalier in Haiti,
Right.
arguing that doing so implicitly condoned their regimes and their human rights abuses. This raised the ethical dilemma
Yeah.
of whether it was acceptable to use funds from morally questionable sources to support charitable work.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
It is.
Balancing the need to help those in desperate need with the potential cost of appearing to endorse unethical actions.
It speaks to the complexities of operating within a world
Right.
where clear-cut moral choices
Yeah.
aren't always available.
And then there were criticisms about her emphasis on the spiritual aspects of suffering,
Yes.
with some suggesting that this approach romanticized poverty instead of addressing its root causes.
Right. So instead of working to change the systems that perpetuated poverty,
Yeah.
she was seen as merely alleviating the symptoms.
That's how some critics perceived it.
That's right.
Okay.
They argued that true compassion should be coupled with efforts to dismantle the structures that created and maintained inequality,
Right.
that focusing solely on providing comfort and spiritual care
Yeah.
might distract from the need for systemic change.
It's almost like offering a bandage when surgery is needed.
That's a powerful analogy,
Yeah.
and it reflects the perspective held by many of her critics.
Okay.
They believed that addressing poverty required more than just acts of charity.
Right.
It demanded a fundamental shift in how society addressed issues of injustice and inequality.
So, looking back at Mother Teresa's life and legacy,
Yes.
it seems we're left with a complex
So we are.
and somewhat contradictory picture.
Right.
On one hand, she dedicated her life to serving the poorest of the poor,
Mm.
driven by an unwavering faith and compassion.
Yes.
But on the other, there are these criticisms about her methods,
Right.
her acceptance of donations from controversial sources,
Yes.
and her focus on spiritual comfort over systemic change.
Uh-huh. How do we reconcile these contrasting elements?
It's a testament to the complexity of her story
It is.
that even decades after her death,
Yeah.
these questions continue to spark debate.
They do.
I think the key takeaway is that Mother Teresa was a product of her time,
Okay.
shaped by her upbringing, her faith,
Hmm.
and the specific circumstances she faced.
Right.
It's too simplistic to label her as solely a saint or a villain.
It is.
So what can we learn from this deep dive into Mother Teresa's life?
Well,
What insights can we take away and apply to our own lives?
perhaps the most valuable lesson is the recognition, that even the most well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences.
Right.
Mother Teresa's life reminds us that addressing complex issues like poverty and suffering
Yeah.
requires a multifaceted approach,
Okay.
one that combines compassion and practicality,
Right.
faith and critical thinking.
It seems like she prompts us to ask some tough questions about our own motivations for helping others, and to consider whether our actions truly address the root causes of the problems we seek to solve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She challenges us to go beyond simply feeling good about our charitable acts,
Right.
and to critically examine whether our efforts are truly empowering those we aim to help.
This deep dive has certainly been an eye-opening experience.
It has.
It's given me a much more nuanced perspective on Mother Teresa and her legacy.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it?
It is.
It challenges our preconceived notions
Right.
and invites us to engage with complex topics
Yeah.
in a thoughtful and critical way.
Well said.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the life and legacy of Mother Teresa.
Yes. Hey.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and encouraged you to consider the complexities of faith charity and our responsibility to one another
Yeah.
in a world often filled with suffering and injustice.